Hey, everybody. I'm Mary Walter. Welcome to the Mary Walter Radio podcast. It is great to be back. Yeah, I was on vacation and I was actually going to do a podcast last Thursday, and wound up totally forgetting. We were sitting around having appetizers and drinks, and I just looked at my husband and go, oh, it's Thursday. So I totally forgot. So my apologies. I had said I was going to do one last week, and I totally forgot. But maybe that means it's a good vacation. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm going to say is it means it's a good vacation. Um, James is not here. I have no idea where James is. I have no clue. I've texted him, haven't heard from him all day. So I'm just assuming that he is not joining us tonight. Who knows? Maybe he will pop in here somewhere. Hi, Bill. Yeah, I missed you guys. There's Ron. Hello. Thank you for joining me. Of course, please like the podcast. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. I've also been telling you that we have an announcement coming, and I've decided to put it off until after vacations because it would be disjointed if, we do it for 2 weeks and then don't do it and then do it for, it would just be really disjointed. So I'm going to wait. I'm going away again in August. I'm not going away in September. Not complaining. It's great. I'm super excited. Finally getting some time off. That's great. Really more for the husband than for me, because he's working really hard. But then we're going to start something new, and I will make an announcement and I'll tell you all about it. And I hope you guys all enjoy it. So here is what I would like to start out with. This was sent to me. Let me go to here. This was sent to me by a man named Jim Gossett. We've used some of his stuff before, but here we go.
All the joy hit the lights, another shim hearing tonight. Liz Cheney is rehearsing her tales almost always fail. They continue, don't know why. Cassidy caught in a lie, her story was debunked. America, you're getting punked. Yeah, talk about going down the rabbit hole, Doc. Benny Thompson, what a shill. Kinzinger, we've had our fill. Adam Schiff is another train wreck. Trump goes in pencil neck. No one's watching, no one cares. It's a sad state of affairs. The truth they like to bend. On with the show that won't end.
Yay, that was from Jim Gossett. And, Ron, who I know is watching right now, Ron is with us. I know he would really appreciate that because Ron, when I did a morning show on WCTC in Somerset, New Jersey, Ron was the morning show minstrel. And Ron would write all sorts of songs for us. And Jim now has been sending me some things that he writes for like Lars Larson and Rob Carson and other hosts. And he's allowed me to use that. So you can find more of his videos on YouTube on Jim Gossett Comedy, and I will put that information at the bottom of this podcast at the end of the show. Let's see. Do you have a call-in number? No, I do not. I do not have a call-in number. Sorry. I'm not there yet. Not at that point yet. I would like to get there someday, but right now, no. We are not there yet. So let's talk about the January 6th hearings. There's supposed to be a big production tonight. There's like a Saturday evening special. Remember, what did they have them back in like the 70s? There were certain nights where they had certain specials on. So this is the January 6th. They're doing another hearing. These things are going to go. They're coming out with their big final report sometime in the fall. I think sometime in the fall is going to be just before the November midterms because the Democrats are going to get spanked and they know it. And so that's all they have. And so that's what they're going to do. And again, that is just my humble opinion, but that's when we'll see it. We would like to do a story Marburg pandemic update for everyone. Well, I can't help you with that. I don't know what the Marburg pandemic is, so I can't do an update for you. And you can do a podcast on YouTube though. Feel free. This is coming from Getter. This is actually on Getter. Do it on Getter. Do a podcast on Getter. You could do that. Do a video there. So all right. So January 6th, Quinnipiac just put out a poll. When they asked people, when they polled people, and they asked about a whole bunch of stuff, but they asked about January 6th. And when people were asked how closely they're following the news about the work of the January 6th committee investigating the storming of the U.S. Capitol, 28% of Americans said they're following it very closely. 28%. 33% said somewhat closely. 16% said not so closely. 21% said not closely at all. And they say this is pretty much where the numbers were back in June. So this is the July poll. They asked the question in June, and the numbers really haven't changed. 55% of Americans think it is very important for Congress to hold hearings so that the public can learn what led to the attack. That's an increase from the June 22 poll from a month ago when it was 49%. So this constant drip, drip, drip that the Democrats have been doing since the day Trump came down the escalator is working. It's working for them. And I think it's because they just fatigue the American public into just like, okay, if you just stop, I won't vote for him, please. And I can tell you, I see that among Trump supporters. I'm a big Trump supporter. If Trump ran, I would vote for him. Without a doubt, I would vote for him if he wins the nomination. But I think there's a lot of people who just don't want this constant drip, drip, drip. And there's a reason why Democrats are doing it to Trump. They are afraid of him because he's not a politician. They don't want him in. I think that they're going to give DeSantis a hard time, but I don't think they get the same reaction from people as they do with Trump. They have done such a masterful job at ruining him. And the truth is never going to come out. I really don't think we're ever going to get the truth. I think people walk. I think we have a bunch of unelected bureaucrats in this country who are running the country. And I have some stories coming up to that effect. And, obviously, if you are on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, you can write down your comments and questions. I can put it up on the screen. Getter, I can't. I have to read those. So, hey, Ed, welcome, Ed. He said it must be the same 28% that accounts for Biden's current approval ratings. Yeah, he's not doing so good in the ratings. We'll talk about that coming up as well. All right. 48% of Americans think that Trump committed a crime with his efforts to change the 2020 presidential election. 44% think he did not. So it's within four percentage points. So you're about split. That has not changed, though, since last year. So it's interesting that you see that the numbers are not changing in some aspects, but changing in others. So I don't know how much of an effect this January 6th committee has at all on Trump. I mean, it's gone up 4 points. You're getting closer to 50% of the population. So I do think to a certain extent the Democrats are being successful. 37% say the January 6th hearings made them think that Trump had a bigger role in the Capitol than they previously thought. That's what the Democrats want. 46% say the hearings have not impacted their thinking. Some majority said it hasn't changed their thinking. And I can understand why. Everything they come out with, there's always then someone who says, that's not what I told them. You've got Cassidy Hutchinson. He choked the driver, and the agents and the driver were like, no, that didn't happen. Let me testify publicly. And the committee goes like, oh, we're going on 4th of July vacation. Sorry. But they know that the facts don't matter because it's all about perception. It's about the smear. And if you smear someone enough, they eventually become dirty, right? That's exactly what happens. And that's what they're doing with Trump. Town Hall, Julio Rosas has a piece in Town Hall, and he talks about Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. She was on CNN on Sunday, and she basically said that the House committee does not fact check the statements of those who have testified before they put them out in front of the public. They don't check anything they're going to say. They just throw them out there. Why? Because if they can say something that's sensational, that the people who don't want to check the facts, the people who want to believe that Trump did something, and then maybe, kind of those who be easily swayed because they don't like Trump. So like, yeah, I'll believe that. They believe, I can so see Trump choking the driver. Okay. They know that it eventually sticks. And discussing that testimony by Cassidy Hutchinson. So Zoe Lofgren was speaking with Jake Tapper on CNN. And Tapper said, former Mark Meadows aide Cassidy Hutchinson testified that Pat Cipollone said something along the lines that they get charged with every crime imaginable if Trump went up to the Capitol. Two sources told CNN that the committee did not ask Pat Cipollone whether he had said that was true. Is it true? And if so, why wouldn't you ask him that? Lofgren says, we never call in witnesses to corroborate other witnesses or to give their reaction to other witnesses. So you don't ask the people who were there if what this witness is saying is true that she heard. I mean, Cassidy Hutchinson gave third-hand testimony. Judge Judy won't allow second-hand testimony, and she gave third-hand testimony, but they don't ask someone who was there if what Cassidy Hutchinson said was true. That just goes to show you they're not about getting at the truth. This is not about the truth because you can't handle the truth. This is not about getting to the truth. The country is in the crapper. Hey, James. I love James. Country's in the crapper economically, but at least we're free of mean tweets. Exactly. Exactly. Ed says, this is why they won't do Bannon in a public forum. Absolutely right. This is why Steve Bannon's going to be behind closed doors. They only put out the show. And it is not fact-based at all. Zoe Lofgren said as much. She said, but I will say that he did interview with us for 8 hours and provide very insightful information, and that augments and certainly does not dispute Ms. Hutchinson's testimony. So stay tuned for this week's hearings tonight. We think they'll be worth attending. Okay, they keep telling us, last time they told us it was a bombshell, and it was Cassidy Hutchinson, who the people that she says told them that this person told them the third-hand testimony. So it's three down. And the guy says, that's not at all what happened. That's not true at all. But we don't hear from that guy publicly. That guy we don't hear from. So this is all about the show. Speaking of January 6th, Epic Times, which I'm telling you, I don't get paid by them. I actually pay them. I think it's like $7 a month to be able to read everything on the Epic Times. They've got some great reporting on Epic Times. They really do. A little weird that you have to click for English, otherwise it comes up in Chinese. But they really have some fantastic reporting. And this piece is from James Hahnemann. And it says, all right, on January 4th of 2021, an account on Twitter under the name of John Here to Help posted on Twitter that Antifa and BLM agitators were being bussed from Baltimore to Washington to cause trouble at the Capitol on January 6th. Here's what he tweeted. Pantifa, BLM, Baltimore, D.C. branches are already bussing people in to disturb January 6th. Orders were given to dress like MAGA, blend in, and cause trouble, especially around cameras. At night, arson has been ordered, all to be blamed on Trump supporters attending. Please be careful. The post caught the attention of an assistant commander in the intelligence and counterterrorism branch of the U.S. Park Police. He forwarded it to officials at the U.S. Capitol Police, the D.C. Metro Police, and the Department of Homeland Security, as well as some other agencies. If you see something, say something. That's what you're supposed to do, right? His Twitter account was suspended, okay? Now, his real name, the account belonged to a man named Ryan Dark White, who is also known as John McGreevey. McGreevey has described himself in court papers and interviews as a former DOJ informant who supplied information on corruption in the federal government, law enforcement, and the Trump administration. So he's not a Trump fan. He's talking about corruption in the Trump administration. He once used the name Ryan White as a cover, but he now identifies as this John McGreevey. He's running for federal office in Maryland. John Here to Help's original post was shared more than 6,000 times before it came on the radar of the Park Police. At the time, he had more than 120,000 followers on Twitter, and then Twitter suspended his account. Now, why would you suspend that guy's account for posting something like that? Ed says, this is like a grand jury, just bring in people who will help you get an indictment. Exactly. This is no trial. It is absolutely not a trial at all. He's 100% right. The Park Police wrote to officials on January 5th of 2021. There are multiple replies to this comment that says BLM Antifa will wear MAGA hats backwards, wear camo, and attempt to blend in with the MAGA crowd. The Wayback Machine archive of White's post shows nearly 600 replies, but the replies are not visible. The emails came through as part of a trove of documents that were obtained in 2021 by a FOIA lawsuit filed by Judicial Watch. And that shows that federal law enforcement knew that infiltrators could be among the crowds at the Capitol. They also back up anecdotal reports of BLM and Antifa activists from Oregon, Maryland, and other states causing disruption and committing vandalism on January 6th. Trump supporters tangled with alleged Antifa provocateurs in several spots on January 6th, according to the Epoch Times, including the lower west terrace of the Capitol. A woman named Victoria Wright, she's from Minnesota, is seen scuffling with a man attempting to break an arched window adjacent to the Capitol tunnel's entrance. The crowd is screaming, "Blank F Antifa." This woman wrestled for control of this man's bat. It was a club. He wore a green helmet with Trump stickers. She was interviewed by the Epoch Times because they have a documentary coming up called The Real Story of January 6th. And in that interview, she says, I'm like, we don't do that. We don't do that. Trump supporters, we don't do that. And the other people who said, no, we're all on the same team. And I said, no, we are not. She said, who brings something like that to a Trump rally, let alone to break out the Capitol windows? That's not us. That's not what patriot Americans do. We don't do that stuff, which I don't know a Trump supporter who would do anything like that. Then again, I don't know anybody who would do anything like that, Trump supporter or not. Another man got control of the club and began smashing the window. She helped with others to pull him down from the window before she was pulled away by other bystanders. Members of the crowd were venting at the vandals, saying, "We're not Antifa." A man with a green stocking cap pulled over his MAGA hat, pulled out what appeared to be a stereo speaker from a backpack, and everybody started screaming at him. And the crowd started shouting at a man dressed in black, "No, no," and then calling him Antifa, screaming, "Antifa's breaking the windows, Antifa's breaking the windows." While conducting a live stream on January 6th, independent journalist Taylor Hanson recognized a protester in a gas mask, and she recognized that protester from covering Antifa riots in Portland, Oregon. She said, "I recognize you from Portland," and the woman turned away from the camera. So she said, "You've got Antifa here too. You have Antifa and Trump supporters within the same vicinity here for the same thing. This is absolutely crazy." Those things, though, you will not hear tonight from the show trial, which, by the way, honestly, don't waste your, I don't even know when it's on. It could be on now for all I know. There is no way I can sit and watch Jamie Raskin and Adam Schiff. I just can't. The two of them in the same room, and I'm like, I just had dinner. They're horrible people. They're just terrible, horrible people. And of course, you know, Colbert's crew, his staffers did not get, they were charged by the DOJ for being in the Capitol unescorted after hours after being told to get out. No charges filed against them, but a grandma who walked in through an open door into the statuary hall had to plead guilty to trespassing, and she's doing something like 2 months. She had to report to DC to do 2 months in prison because she walked through an open door. So she pleaded guilty to trespassing. You never plead guilty. Don't plead guilty to anything. There's no way would I plead guilty. And I would point to something like this, Just the News, but John Solomon's outlet. John wrote this report. He said the description that members provided Congress this week was loud banging on doors, talk of a cocaine orgy, and threats to place something under a congressman's door is far different than what Colbert said it was. He said it was lighthearted, first-degree puppetry. So Republicans have written a letter to the Biden DOJ questioning why these people weren't charged. And the Capitol Police Chief, Thomas Menger, wrote to Republicans Rodney Davis and Jim Jordan. He wrote this letter. It was dated on Tuesday, and you probably saw it last night. In this letter, he says it is unfortunate that despite all the evidence of the department presented, including that the group or its leader have been told several times that they could not be in the building without an escort, that the U.S. Attorney's Office declined to prosecute any member of the group for unlawful entry. He revealed in the letter that the 9 members of Colbert's staff who were arrested June 16th for unauthorized access to a House office building had previously been rejected for press credentials, had been warned multiple times that they could not stay in Capitol buildings without an escort, and were ejected by police from the complex just hours before they were arrested for being in the building. This is no different than what some of those people on January 6th who walked through the open doors, or some of them were pushed by the crowd into Statuary Hall, who stayed on the red carpet between the ropes, took selfies and went home. They did less than these people, and the people who did less are having their lives ruined because we have a two-tier system of quote unquote justice. He's fired. It says he's fired. I don't know who he's talking. I think he's talking about. I don't know who he's talking about. The chief also revealed that 2 of the 9 staffers, when arrested, refused to cooperate. They cited their Miranda rights, and that one of the staffers initially falsely told responding police officers that the Colbert crew was credentialed staff. So they lied to the police. That is another charge. Not charged at all. Not charged at all. So it started because Democratic Rep Jamal Bowman called police. An aide to Jamal Bowman called police because he said he felt threatened by the behavior and he feared for his safety. He said they were when the cops got there, they were boisterous, but they were not filming. He could hear a man shouting outside his office, which is next to Lauren Boebert's office. He stated that he heard a man banging on Boebert's office door saying, "Do you remember me? Do you remember me? It's me. We're going to leave something under your door." He was concerned. He locked his office door for safety, and he called the U.S. Capitol Police emergency number. Let's see. The U.S. Attorney's Office that made the Colbert decision is the same one that has prosecuted hundreds of January 6 defendants for trespassing on January 6. So again, a two-tiered system of justice. The chief that sent the letter has been fired. Failure to push the he's going to be fired. So it says Manger's going to be fired. Manger is going to be fired because he's not pushing the liberal narrative. You're probably right. Probably darn right, Ed. Let's see. So the police say the crew did not have any official appointments on the day that they were arrested, but did have appointments a day earlier when they remained with their escorts. Staff from the offices of Jake Auchincloss and Ted Lieu, both Democrats, were involved in helping the crew gain access to the buildings. And they even said, yeah, we've been ejected before, but we're back, because they knew, and that's what Thomas Manger says in this letter, that they knew there weren't going to be any consequences. Actually, that may have been, hold on, that was Jim Jordan and Rodney Davis who said that. 7 of the 9 people were associated with Colbert's show. 2 others were providing unarmed security. Why do they need unarmed security inside a congressional building where you have Capitol Police? Why would they need unarmed security? I don't understand that at all. That makes 0 sense to me. So I don't know why they would need unarmed security. The group had conducted interviews with members of the January 6th Select Committee earlier in the day, Adam Schiff, Stephanie Murphy, as well as Jake Auchincloss. The federal prosecutors dropped the charges. Here's what Manger wrote. He said, "It's unfortunate that despite all of the evidence the department presented, including that the group or its leader had been told several times that they could not be in the buildings without an escort, the U.S. Attorney's Office declined to prosecute any members of the group for unlawful entry." So, what are you going to do? The Republicans don't run the show. And even if they did, there are many at the DOJ and the FBI and the Secret Service who are unelected bureaucrats who think that they run the show. They've been empowered to run the show. Look what they did to Trump. Look at how many times they subverted him. Here's one. I don't know if you heard about this. Talking about Trump and Republicans being subverted by the deep state, which people laugh at. There's no deep state. There really is a deep state. And I have to tell you, I was one of those people who was like, oh, okay, I'll put on my tinfoil hat, the deep state. I no longer think it's a conspiracy theory. No, not anymore. I certainly do not think it's a conspiracy theory. Let's see. Former President Donald Trump's final declassification. Remember everybody saying, oh, he has got to declassify everything before he leaves. He's got to declassify. We're like, oh, he didn't declassify everything, right? And he didn't. And I was really upset that he didn't. And I really feel it was a wasted moment. And I bet you he regrets it now. But here's what happened. A memo was sent by Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, that was delivered on the morning of January 20th of 2020. So he's got 24 hours left as president. And it was delivered to the Justice Department, and it noted that the Justice Department, quote, must release the binder of declassified documents about the Trump-Russia investigation following a Privacy Act review. The DOJ, under Merrick Garland, does not appear to have released the records despite the declassification order from Trump and the memo from Meadows. Ed says, I guess the need for security if you're not doing anything wrong is the same as needing a wall if you say they don't work. Exactly. Smart man. So Trump gave this executive order to declassify these memos, and Merrick Garland, and they were supposed to do a Privacy Act review and then release them. They've chosen not to do that because they were in the show. They are more powerful than the president, unelected bureaucrats. Meadows told the DOJ, the Office of Legal Counsel, had said the Privacy Act doesn't apply to the White House, but that, quote, we do not intend to disclose materials that would violate the standards of the Privacy Act, unquote. Well, that makes no sense. The Trump chief of staff nevertheless asked the DOJ to review the records for anything that might run afoul of the spirit of the privacy law. The memo mentioned a binder of materials related to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation that Trump said the Justice Department provided to the White House at his request on December 30th of 2020. Trump said on January 19th of 2021, I hereby declassify the remaining materials in the binder. This is my final determination under the declassification review, and I have directed the Attorney General to implement the redactions proposed in the FBI's January 17th submission and return to the White House an appropriate redacted copy. Never happened. The memo from Trump noted that he had determined that the materials should be declassified to the maximum extent possible. The FBI said in mid-January of 21 that the Bureau had identified the passages that it believed was most crucial to keep from public disclosure. Trump said at the time that he would accept the redactions proposed for continued classification by the FBI, but he ordered the rest of the documents to be declassified and made available by the DOJ. That has not happened. And I know people on the left, they cheer at this. They cheer this. They think it's great that presidential power is being usurped by non-elected bureaucrats who we pay, and they think that they know better than everybody else and who are acting outside the confines of the law. It's great until they come for you. It's great until they do it to your guy. Then you're not going to be so happy anymore. And nobody seems to learn from history. All right, Ed's got to go. See you next week. Thanks, Ed. He says, tells everybody to enjoy the heat. Ed's got to go. He's got to go to work. All right. Remember, if you leave comments, I'll be happy to put them up and to engage you, unless you're commenting on something like really doesn't have to do with the topic, and then that's not going to happen. Now, in his book that he released in 2021, Mark Meadows wrote this: the DOJ or the FBI would consistently push back when he asked for the remaining documents to be declassified. In these final weeks, when the president's request was once again ignored, he demanded that these documents be brought to the White House, and I personally went through every page to make sure that the president's declassification would not inadvertently disclose sources and methods. DOJ had finally allowed key documents to be declassified, and yet minutes before Joe Biden would be sworn in, they were trying to redact information they had just provided. Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson have been pushing for answers from the Biden DOJ since early 2021, and they said in February that Garland told them the review was ongoing. They told the Attorney General that the DOJ has not only failed to declassify a single page, the department has failed to identify for Congress records that it knows with certainty to be covered by the declassification directive. They answer to no one. And that should scare the bejesus out of all of us. This is when you get a police state. Trump tweeted in October of 2020, I have fully authorized the total declassification of any and all documents pertaining to the single greatest crime in American history, the Russia hoax. Likewise, the Hillary Clinton email scandal. No redactions. He added that all Russia hoax scandal information was declassified by me long ago. And they don't care. They don't care. He's the president. They don't like him. They know better. So they're only going to do what they think they should do. Can you imagine if you performed your job that way? Can you even begin to imagine? All right. So Ed had mentioned earlier Joe Biden's popularity and the latest polls that have come out. Every week, his approval rating just goes down and down and down. So the overall approval rating, now this is a Quinnipiac poll, which is left-leaning, by the way. The overall approval for Joe is now only 18% among Latinos. 18%. I don't understand how the Democrats think this is okay or they're not worried about it. They've got to be worried about it. They're also losing a lot of African Americans who are like, hey, wait a minute. What are you doing to my kids in school? I don't like this. They also don't like the crime in their neighborhoods. 69% of Latinos disapprove of Joe Biden, with 49% strongly disapproving of Joe Biden. When you talk about his handling of the economy, 66% of overall Americans disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling the economy. Among Latinos, 72% disagree. You know why? They've lived in Venezuela. They've lived in countries like this, and they see where this country's going. They came to America because the streets are paved with gold. Not what we got now. Not because you can't get infant formula to feed your baby. Nobody's even talking about that anymore. That's gone. You know, like the whole infant formula thing, that's gone. Nobody cares anymore. Oh, well, it's just the new normal. And people just accept it. We're the frogs sitting in the pot boiling away. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, it's just the new normal. The number one concern for Democrats in this survey, and remember, Quinnipiac skews left. The number one concern for Democrats in this survey is gun violence. Gun violence. When you can't feed your kid, that's your number one concern. When you can't make your mortgage payment, that's your number one concern. When it costs you twice as much to get to work now because of gas prices, that's a concern. The number two concern is abortion. Really? Really? I hope that's the Democrats' number two concern. I wish it was number one. And then inflation and the economy comes in place at third. No other poll has inflation and economy in the third place amid any group. It's the number one concern across every group polled except by Quinnipiac. Okay. John Durham is still around. John Durham's still here. John Durham asked a federal court to send out 30 subpoenas for testimony in the pending trial against Igor Danchenko. He's the alleged main source for the Steele dossier. He has pleaded not guilty, but he is charged with lying to the FBI. According to the indictment, Danchenko's alleged fabrications, quote, were material to the FBI because the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign relied on the dossier to obtain warrants to spy on Trump aide Carter Page. Memos compiled by Steele claim that Trump colluded with Russian officials to help him beat Clinton in 2016. John Durham says Danchenko made up a conversation that he claimed was the source of some of the more sordid claims contained in the dossier. The dossier also alleged that Russian intelligence officials were blackmailing Trump. Remember that? He stayed in a hotel and they had the room bugged and he was into prostitutes peeing on him. It's like everyone who heard this was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And people who know Trump said he is such a germaphobe. There is no way that would happen. No way that would happen. So it looks like Danchenko's in trouble here. Sure, calling someone a taco is a great way to help win over a Democratic voter base. Exactly, James. What did Joe Biden say? Speaking of Hispanic, SUBPOENAS, or remember she was trying to speak his Spanish and try to use a term because she's speaking their language and she totally butchered it. I was like, what the hell is she? I don't speak Spanish, but I'm like, what the heck is she trying to say? And it was something like SUBPOENAS or something, and she sounded like a drunk Muppet. It was horrible what she did. That the indictment suggests that the claim came from a Democratic public relations executive, Charles Dolan Jr., who toured a suite in Moscow in 2016 that was once used by Trump. But Dolan and other witnesses told investigators that there was no mention of inappropriate behavior in the suite, according to the indictment. So 30 subpoenas. I am going to be collecting Social Security. Well, it won't be here, but I would be old enough to collect Social Security by the time this Durham thing ever comes out, if it ever comes out. All right. So I would just want to ask you a question. Feel free to leave comments. And I want to go into Hunter Biden a little bit, and I'm going to make this quick. But I keep hearing, and because I was watching Fox, I watched MSNBC, and I was watching Fox as well. And Bill Hemmer was discussing how this 4 years looking into Hunter Biden and taxes and everything that's going on in Delaware, this trial, so they're trying to get an indictment in Delaware. Can you imagine serving on that jury for 4 years? You're like, holy God. I guess they renew them. I don't know how you do that when it goes for 4 years. I have no idea. I get called every now and then. My husband and I both get called at the same time to serve. And so far, I've never been allowed. I went once to serve on a jury, and they asked me what I did for a living. I told them what I did, and the defense said dismissed. I was out, and I was like, all right, going home. See ya. I kind of think it would be cool to serve on a jury. I do. Watch that. Now I'm going to get called. I'd probably just jinx myself. So they keep saying that they're coming to a head with this. They're either going to indict, or he's going to get some kind of sweetheart deal where he just has to pay back taxes, and some rich, donor is going to pay off his taxes for him, and that's going to be it. And he's not going to get hit up with anything else. There's just a whole bunch of rumors swirling, and I've got them for you as to what he's going to be charged with if he's charged. So I have a theory, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but my theory is that if Hunter Biden, because the DOJ knows exactly what's going on in Delaware, and that they're monitoring it, and that they're telling Joe Biden what's going on. I think that if Hunter gets a sweetheart deal, then that's to be expected. That's what we all thought was going to happen, and he's going to walk just like everybody else who's a liberal, right? He's going to walk. Any high profile Democrat walks, right? But if they indict Hunter, the big thing about that is that it opens up a can of worms for Joe Biden, because of some of the things I'm going to tell you about, and you might have heard, but if not, I'm going to go through it quickly, about, paying off Hunter, paying Hunter just before Hunter pays off, Russian prostitutes, and traveling on Air Force Two to conduct his business all over the world, and, his business associates and contacts getting to suddenly go to the White House, and pictures with his dad, and his dad calling him up and saying, hey, the story that's coming out tomorrow, I think you're in the clear. Things like that. It opens up a possibility of Joe Biden now being in hot water, and maybe having to be looked into. It's a much bigger problem. If that happens, I think that's the Democrats signaling it's time for Joe to go. I don't know if they're going to do it, though, because Kamala Harris then is president. Now, I think Kamala Harris will go along to get along. I totally believe that. Girlfriend just wants power. That's all she wants. If she could be the first female president because Joe Biden gets taken out by a Hunter, by his son's shenanigans and investigation, I think she'll take it in a heartbeat. They'll be like, okay, here's what you do. You show up, you read the teleprompter, you don't make any decisions on your own. We're going to make them all. She's like, where do I sign? I'm in. She's in. I don't think she has an ounce of integrity in her. I don't think it's just not who she is. So I think she would do it. So the people behind the scenes can control her, and that's what they want. So if they think they can pull that off, I think Hunter goes down. If they don't think they can pull it off, Hunter gets a sweetheart deal. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm just curious. So will Hunter basically be indicted to get Joe out? That's one way to get rid of him, because he ain't running next year for another term. I think we all know that. Hunter Biden's payments to a Ukrainian woman who has been linked to an Eastern European escort ring were flagged by JP Morgan Chase in 2018 and 2019 in a report that was filed with the federal government. So these are called SAR reports, suspicious activity reports. So if you make a transaction more than $10,000, it triggers automatically a suspicious activity report that goes to the federal government, because they're afraid that you're going to actually move cash around and they won't get their taxes. So they have the right to monitor what you do over $10,000. Hunter spent over $30,000 on escorts. Now, I don't know about you, but when I got my first job and I got my first credit cards and everything, my father said to me, don't ask me for money. Those are your credit cards. If it's an emergency, like you have to get home for some reason, and you put like your grandmother dies and you got to put a ticket on your credit card. Okay, I will help you out. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't pay for $30,000 worth of hookers. It's just a stab in the dark, and I'm just spitballing here. But I'm pretty sure my father would not pay for $30,000 worth of hookers. He made it quite clear. It is all you, 100% all you. It's your credit card. So I'm shocked at this. Many of these escorts were linked to a .ru Russian email address, and they worked with a model agency. Oh my God, it's so hackneyed, right? It's like he met them on Craigslist. It's called Uber GFE, and this was between November of 2018 and March of 2019. Let's see. So that's November to December to February. In 3 months, it's like $10,000 a month in hookers. I have no idea what hookers go for. I'm not quite. I don't know the pricing structure, but I would think that $10,000 a month on hookers is like excessive for one guy. I think that's excessive. I don't know, and I probably don't want to know. I'm waiting for James to chime in here and mess with me. That's what I'm waiting for. Um, okay, this is according to the Washington Examiner. Biden claimed to members of his family, Hunter, that he was broke during that time, but he was able to make payments to the escorts thanks in part to his dad committing to wiring him a total of $100,000 to help pay his bills from December 2018 through January 2019. 100 grand for 2 months. Now, if you spend 10,000, that's 60,000 that Joe was paying for in hookers for the smartest man he knows. Remember, he called his son the smartest man he knows. I don't even know what's in $60,000. I can't wrap my mind around it. And there's no way I could go to my dad. I can't pay my bills. What do you need? I need like $100,000. What do you need it for? Oh, just expensive. My father wouldn't just hand me $100,000. It just didn't know. He wouldn't give me 10. In no world. I would have to show him receipts. This is what I did with the money. This is what I needed the money for. But he would charge me interest. I mean, the whole bit. Sorry, Dad. I banged a lot of hookers in the last couple of months. Okay, the release of the SAR, the Suspicious Activity Report, comes after Republican senators demanded that the DOJ, in a letter on Thursday, last week, investigate Joe Biden's apparently unwitting financing of his son's participation in an Eastern European escort ring. Now, his payments to this escort, Uber GFE, this escort is named Anna Dektiar. She's a Ukrainian citizen. Between November 2018 and March 2019 were flagged in the JP Morgan Chase SAR, and it was published by the Daily Mail. Dektiar received a combined $274,873. $274,873 between November 2018 and March 2019 from 8 bank accounts, one of which was linked to Hunter Biden's company Oswego PC for, quote, no clear legitimate economic purpose, according to the SAR. Yes, Ron, my dad did have moral values and he beat them into us. And he also let us know that once he paid for 4 years of college, or helped pay for 4 years of college, that we were on our own. So furthermore, according to the SAR, there were instances where cash deposits appear structured in attempts to avoid currency transaction report filing, since they are large round dollar cash transactions conducted on same consecutive or near consecutive days in aggregate amounts exceeding the CTR threshold. The smartest man he knows, maybe Joe should lay off sniffing of children and give Hunter a good whiff. Hunter reeks of uselessness and problems. That is so true. Although I don't think Joe's sniffing anything if he lost his sense of smell. Little girls all around the White House are safe. Emails from Hunter Biden's laptop show that he added Dektiar as an authorized recipient to receive wires from his Wells Fargo's bank account on December 8th of 2019. That same evening, he sent 3 payments to her ranging from $300 to $600. She forwarded a portion of the funds to another Ukrainian citizen named Ekaterina Moreva, a person who sold Hunter Biden time with escorts. So she's like the madam, I guess, if I'm putting it all together here, which I don't know if I am. Hunter complained to Moreva in February of 2019 that his bank account was frozen for trying to make payments to one of her escorts because it was tied to a Russian bank account. Also identified in the SAR was an escort from Uber GFE. And you probably saw this video. Hunter filmed her and was asking her if he ever hurt her. Remember that? Have I ever hurt you? This just sounds so creepy when he says it. It's so creepy. Have I ever hurt you? And he said, I'm sorry. It took me some time to get you $10,000. Well, Biden wired his son $5,000 through Cash App less than 3 hours before Hunter made that video. So Joe is unwittingly or wittingly, I don't know, basically fueling his son's hooker habit with these escorts. Now, the New York Post on Sunday reported a second SAR filed by JP Morgan Chase that flagged payments that Hunter made from his company, Oswego PC, to individuals with ties to the, quote, adult entertainment industry and potential association with prostitution, or who were listed in prior SAR filings related to human trafficking. Because remember, a lot of these girls who are prostitutes have been human trafficked. They're sex slaves. Now, part of the problem, another piece by KTU.com, KATU.com, they say now that this is a thing that came out when I was on vacation. Oh my God. Did you see, I don't know if you saw this, 4chan apparently hacked into the cloud and got Hunter Biden's passwords and everything and got all his text messages off his phone. Crazy. And they're popping up all over the place. The Secret Service confirmed that they are aware of a potential hack into Biden's iCloud account. Some of the alleged content has already been posted online through 4chan. Now they say suspicions are now arising that Google is censoring search engine results for Hunter Biden-related news. The Daily Mail reported Hunter Biden may face federal prostitution charges for bringing 3 escorts from Boston to New York for a, quote, fun night. That may actually classify as a federal offense because transporting prostitutes across state lines is illegal. Then again, so's crack, but we all know Hunter does that. Hunter's escorts often have ties to Russia. Now, if those women were imported from Russia to the United States, that's even worse. That's even worse. Timelines show he would pay for these services after receiving large money wires from his dad, but there's no evidence that shows that the president knew how Hunter Biden spent that money. And then you have this other controversy, which I know you heard, where that involved the president, his son, and the sale of nearly 1 million barrels of oil from the American Strategic Oil Reserve that he sold to China. We didn't get it. Oh, he's taking credit for driving down gas prices. He released all this oil from the reserve. It's our oil for when we have an emergency. Joe Biden sold it to China. Can you imagine if Trump did this? Can you even begin to imagine? A private equity firm previously tied to Hunter Biden has a $1.7 billion stake in the Chinese state-owned company that the Biden administration sold oil to. And we're not investigating this? Are you kidding me? Instead, we've got the January 6th circus that no one gives 2 farts in the wind about. This is, I think John Johnson said, I think the American people should deserve to know the truth because Joe Biden is compromised. You've got James Comer, who is the ranking member on the House Oversight and Reform Committee. He sent a letter to Janet Yellen Wednesday. He's following up on a letter that he sent in May, where he said he wrote requesting information regarding Hunter Biden and other Biden associates and family members' financial transactions that were flagged by banks for reporting to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Just let that sink in. Hunter Biden family and associates had all these bank transactions flagged and then referred to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, through SARS, which are suspicious activity reports. The Biden administration, according to James Comer, is restricting Congress's access to the SARS, and committee Republicans are investigating whether this change in policy is motivated by efforts to shield Hunter Biden and potentially President Biden from scrutiny. Treasury is refusing to release SARS connected with Hunter Biden or his family and associates. He said during a phone call on June 13th of 22, Treasury officials informed committee Republican staff that they will not provide SARS to committee Republicans unless Democrats join in the request. That is not the way it works. But again, they know better. Once again, they know better. James, if you didn't hear already, apparently it seems by their claims 4chan hacked Hunter's iCloud account and began releasing things. That's 4chan's claims, because I was watching this on Monday when it came out, when it broke. It was briefly on Twitter, this stuff from 4chan. People were taking it off of whatever their 4chan. I don't even know how to get to 4chan. I have no idea, but posting some of the stuff on Twitter. That's where the whole Pedo Pete came out. That Peter something is a pseudonym that Joe Biden used to use, and his son Hunter referred to him as Pedo Pete, short for pedophile, Pedo Pete. I can assume that's what, because I don't think it's for podiatrist. I doubt it's podiatrist Pete, but maybe it is. But that's apparently how Hunter refers to his dad. And he had some not so nice things to say about his stepmom, including using the C word. So, yeah, 4chan hacked Hunter's iCloud account, right, and began releasing things. That's exactly what happened, because I was watching this. These things are being posted on Twitter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm following this, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, we got it, we're in, we got his account, we got his password, we got this, we got that. So now you've got the Treasury is restricting access to suspicious activity reports from Congress just because they can. They're just refusing to cooperate with the Republicans. If a Democrat asks, they'll give it to the Democrat, but they won't give it to Republicans. This needs to be cleaned out. This is why we need Trump back, because Trump will clean this stuff out. Although I think DeSantis will too, but I don't think they're as afraid of DeSantis as they are of Trump. I think they can control DeSantis more because he's a politician. Judicial Watch is now suing the Secret Service for Hunter Biden's records. They had filed a FOIA request. This is according to Sarah Carter. Judicial Watch had filed a FOIA request looking for any and all records concerning the use of security and or other services to Hunter Biden and any companions on any international travel from January 1st of 2010 to December 31st of 2013. They have not gotten them. Secret Service keeps telling them that we're not giving them to you. They don't respond. So now Judicial Watch has sued. Judicial Watch is a great organization. They're a really great organization. They get a lot of the information and they ask a lot of the questions that I wish our politicians were asking. Lastly, China. This is disgusting, and this really hit the fan when we saw something that China did when it comes to buying. Last week, Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Kevin Cramer and Senator John Hoeven sent a letter to Janet Yellen and Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, asking the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States to conduct a review of Chinese food manufacturer named Fufeng, their group's recent purchase of about 370 acres of land near Grand Forks, North Dakota. The senator said the land is approximately 12 miles from Grand Forks Air Base, which has led to concern that Fufeng's operations could provide cover for PRC surveillance or interference with the missions located at that installation. Yeah, and it could also interfere with American food supply. Our farmland should be owned by Americans. I'm sorry, that's just the way I think, and you can disagree with me, but I think our farmland should be owned by Americans. I also think that if I can't go to China and buy 370 acres of farmland, then they shouldn't be allowed to come here and buy 370 acres of farmland. I think the policy should be reciprocal. You're not going to let us do it in your country, well, then you can't do it in our country. It's that simple. And especially China. What the hell are we thinking? What is wrong with us? Dan Newhouse, a Republican out of Washington State, introduced the Prohibition of Agricultural Land for the People's Republic of China Act in May to prohibit the purchase of public or private agricultural land in the U.S. by foreign nationals associated with the government of People's Republic of China. Rubio and Cruz introduced the Protecting Military Installations and Ranges Act in April of last year to restrict any effort by China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea to buy U.S. land within 100 miles of a U.S. military installation. The Department of Agriculture released a report saying that through the end of 2019, foreign nationals held an interest in 35.2 million acres of U.S. agricultural land, and Chinese investors held 191,365 acres of U.S. agricultural land at the time. Now you can add this new stuff in. But it's not just that. It's also housing. You know how expensive housing is, right? We don't like how expensive housing is. It's really expensive. Renting is really expensive for Americans. Foreign purchasers from China bought $6.1 billion in U.S. homes from April of 2021 to March of 2022. That's up 30% from the previous year. Canadians bought $5.5 billion in U.S. housing properties. Indians bought $3.6 billion, Mexicans $2.9, and Brazilians $1.6. The average home purchased by Chinese buyers was worth just over $1 million. And that's up from China's $710,000 average the year before. Buyers from China bought heavily in expensive states. 31% of their purchases are in California, 10% in New York. They also included 7% in Indiana, 7% in Florida, 5% in Oklahoma, 5% in Missouri, 5% in Arizona, and then smaller percentages elsewhere. Purchasers from China made up 6% of all foreign buyers. Canadians are 11%, Mexicans 8%, Indians 5%, and Brazilians 3%. 58% of Chinese buyers made all cash purchases. 69% of Canadian purchases were all cash and 65% of Colombian. That I was like, wait, what, Colombian? I didn't know they had that kind of cash. Chinese purchases, buyers from China were among the top 2 most likely groups to buy housing for rental purposes. Chinese purchases also represented the highest percentage of foreign buyers buying homes for student use. Only India came close. China's purchases were 57% urban homes, 29% in suburban areas. Chinese buyers include buyers from the People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. FBI Director Christopher Wray said earlier this month that we consistently see that it's the Chinese government that poses the biggest long-term threat to our economic and national security. So why do we let them buy our farmland? Near an American installation, Air Force installation? Why do we allow that? Overall, foreign buyers bought $59 billion worth of U.S. homes, an 8.5% increase over the prior year. I think, okay, you can buy, if you're a Canadian who wants a vacation home in Florida, okay, you can buy that. But we should put a cap as to how many purchases, how much property you can buy, how many homes you can buy here. There should be caps on that because Americans can't afford homes. It should be, I don't know, Americans first, right? That was just shocking to me. And lastly, I want to end on a good, fun note. Do you remember Toys R Us and Jeffrey? Now, Toys R Us came along. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey. Like, we didn't have a McDonald's. We didn't have fast food. I remember the first fast food restaurant that opened near me was Geno's. Do you guys remember Geno's? They had the endless salad bar, which one was a big deal when I was in high school. And we had Stewart's root beer. We had there, and you had to eat in the car. So my father would never take us because we were never allowed to eat in the car. He would get really mad at us, so we couldn't eat in the car. So we didn't have McDonald's. We didn't have any of that. We had nothing. I mean, there were no mall. I, hand to God true, to buy my jeans, my mother took us to a farm where they had a barn where they sold work clothes. They sold jeans and jean jackets and work shirts and things like that. And I had to get boys' jeans because I didn't have girls' jeans. And that's what I had to wear because that's what we had. So we didn't have a Toys R Us. We had a place in Greenbrook, New Jersey on Route 22 called Tiny Tots. And that was the toy store. It took my parents like 25 minutes to get there, to get to Tiny Tots. And it was like this little, and they also had pools and things like that. So they had this little section of toys. And to us, that was the toy store. So we didn't have Toys R Us. But Macy's is announcing plans to expand the inclusion of Toys R Us branded toy shops to all of their department stores nationwide by the holidays. The stores will start rolling out this month and they'll be ready by October. The Toys R Us shops will include demonstration tables where shoppers can try out different toys and a life-size Jeffrey on a bench where kids and adults can pose for photos with their giraffe mascot, Jeffrey. Last year, Macy's and Toys R Us announced plans to open up toy shops in 400 department stores. Consumers could also start buying toys online through Macy's.com/Toys R Us and ToysRUs.com. Macy's has revealed during their first quarter of 22 earnings, toy sales were 15 times higher than the comparable period before they partnered with Toys R Us. Last December, the company unveiled a new superstore opening at the American Dream Mall in New Jersey. Never been there. Featuring thousands of toys, a 2-story slide, and an ice cream parlor. That American Dream thing is a disaster, but that's a story for another day. So I just wanted, so thank you so much for joining me. I will put all the links in the description as soon as I get off the air. A great musical piece provided by Jim Gossett. You can find him here on YouTube at Jim Gossett Comedy if you want to see more of his pieces. He's fantastic. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. I really appreciate it. And I just, so you know, I will be on the Wendy Bell Show on Newsmax TV on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh, and I will be on Newsmax TV on the Sean Spicer Show between 5:30 and 6 p.m. Eastern time, because you have the like a segment, and then we have the company quiz at the end of the show. So it's between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. So it's for like the whole half hour there. I will be on Sean Spicer's show tomorrow night on Newsmax TV, and then Wendy Bell's show 4:30 on Newsmax TV, and then Monday on the Chris Salcedo show at 4:45 on Newsmax TV. I will see you again next Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me. And wait, I've got one more comment here. You should have Santa there to take their requests. Yes, they should have Santa there to take their requests. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.